Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Kona Valabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yamunatera Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Jayo Radha Dava Kunda Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrata Janarandana Yashodanandana Vrata Janarandana Yamunatera Vanachari Yamunatera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Vihari Gopi Ganavala Bhava Girivardhari Gopi Ganavala Bhava Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yashodanandana Brachadhanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Srila Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Srila Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopala Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mathura Dham Ki Jai Madhuri Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Gangama Yamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakti Govinda ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Gaur. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru Garanga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna devotees. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Lord Rishabhadeva's teachings. Today is the last verse of the chapter, verse number 35. Itinana yoga charya charano bhagavan kaivalya pati rishabho virata parama mahananda nubhava atmani sarvesham bhutanam atma bhute Bhagavati Vasudeva Atmano Vyavadhananta Rodra Bhavena Siddha Samastartha Paripurno Yogaishwaryani Vaihaya Samano Java Tardhana Parakaya Praveshadura Grahanandini Yadricha Kagatani Nanjasan Ripa Hridayenabhya Nandat. Word to word translation. E.T. thus, Nana various yoga of mystic yoga, charya performances are acharanaha practicing, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kaivalya Pati, the Master of Kaivalya, oneness, or the giver of Sayuja Mukti, Rishabha, Lord Rishabha, Avirata, incessantly, Parama, Supreme, Maha, great, Ananda Anubhava, feeling transcendental bliss, Atmani, in the Supreme Soul, Sarvesham, of all, Bhutanam, living entities, Atma Bhute, situated in the heart, Bhagavati, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, Atmana, of himself, Avyavadhana, Avyavadhana, by the non-difference of constitution, Ananta, unlimited, Rodara, like crying, laughing, and shivering, Bhavana, by the symptoms of love, Siddha, completely perfect, Samasta, all, Artha, with desirable opulences, Paripurnaha, full, Yoga Aishvaryani, the mystic powers, Vaihayasa, flying in the sky, Manajava, traveling at the speed of mind, Antardhana, the ability to disappear, Parakaya Pravesha, the ability to enter another's body, Duragrahana, the ability to perceive things far, far away, Adini, the others, Yadrichaya, without difficulty automatically, Upagatani, achieved, Na, not, Anjasa, directly, Nripa, O King Pariksit, Hridayana, within the heart, Abhyanandat, accepted. Translation. O King Pariksit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the partial expansion of Lord Krishna, performed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently Lord Rishabhadeva awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approach him, such as the ability to travel in outer space of the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and to see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. Purport. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila 19:149, it is said, Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ataeva Shanta Mukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. The word Shanta means completely peaceful. Unless all one's desires are fulfilled, one cannot be peaceful. Everyone is trying to fulfill his aspirations and desires, be they material or spiritual. Those in the material world are ashanta, without peace, because they have so many desires to fulfill. The pure devotee, however, is without desire. Anyabilashita shunya. The pure devotee is completely free from all kinds of material desire. Karmis, on the other hand, are simply full of desires because they try to enjoy sense gratification. They are simply they are not peaceful in this life, nor the next, during the past, present, or future. Similarly, jnanis are always aspiring after liberation and trying to become one with the Supreme. Yogis are aspiring after many siddhis, powers, anima, lagima, prapti, etc. However, a devotee is not at all interested in these things because he is fully dependent on the mercy of Krishna. Krishna is Yogeshwara, the possessor of all mystic powers, siddhis, and he is Atmarama, fully self-satisfied. The yoga siddhis are described in this verse. One can fly in outer space without the aid of a machine, but he can travel at the speed of mind. This means that as soon as a yogi desires to go somewhere within this universe or even beyond this universe, he can do so immediately. One cannot estimate the speed of mind, for within a second the mind can go many millions of miles. Sometimes yogis enter into the bodies of other people and act as they desire when their bodies are not working properly. When the body becomes old, a perfect yogi can find a young, able body. Giving up his old body, the yogi can enter the young body and act as he pleases. Being a plenary expansion of Lord Vasudeva, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed all these mystic yoga powers, but he was satisfied with his devotional love of Krishna, which was evinced by the ecstatic symptoms such as crying, laughing, and shivering. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fifth canto, fifth chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Rishabhadeva's Teachings to His Sons. We read the verse again. Iti nana yoga charya charananu bhagavan kaivalya pati rishabha virata parama mahanandan nubhava atmani sarvesham bhutanam atma bhute. Bhagavati Vasudeva Atmanu Vyavadhana Nantarodra Pavana Siddha Samsartha Paripurno Yogaishvaryani Vaihyasa Mano Janar Javantardhana Parakaya Pravesha Dura Grahanandini Yadrichaya Hagatani Nanjasan Ripa Haridayena Bhyanandat. O King Parikshit, just to show all the yogis the mystic process, Lord Rishabhadeva, the partial expansion of Lord Krishna, formed wonderful activities. Actually, he was the master of liberation and was fully absorbed in transcendental bliss, which increased 1,000-fold. Lord Krishna Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, is the original source of Lord Rishabhadeva. There is no difference in their constitution, and consequently Lord Rishabhadeva awakened the loving symptoms of crying, laughing, and shivering. He was always absorbed in transcendental love. Due to this, all mystic powers automatically approach him, such as the ability to travel in outer space at the speed of mind, to appear and disappear, to enter the bodies of others, and see things far, far away. Although he could do all this, he did not exercise these powers. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyanandana Shalakaya Chakshuramilitam Yena Tasmai Shigurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayarupakadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vamcha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Te Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadine Devashesha Shunyavadi Pashchatyade Shatadine.
Boom.
Hare Krishna.
It appears we have skipped text 34.
Oh, really? I'm sorry. I thought I've been told to read 35. Okay, let me quickly read 34 also. It's actually very short. Evam gomriga kaka charyaya vrajamstishtan asina shayana kamriga go charita pibati kadati avamehatisma. In this way, Lord Rishabhadeva followed the behavior of cows, deer, and crows. Sometimes he moved or walked, and sometimes he sat down in one place. Sometimes he lay down, behaving exactly like cows, deer, and crows. In that way, he ate, drank pus, stool, and urine, and cheated the people in this way. Purport. Being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Rishabhadeva possessed a transcendental spiritual body. Since the general public could not appreciate his behavior and mystic yoga practice, they began to disturb him. To cheat them, he behaved like crows, cows, and deer. All right. So in today's verse, which I thought is 35, and let's just cover 34 also quickly. The behavior of Lord Rishabhadeva in verse 34, or those preceding verse 34 also, was something extraordinary from a material perspective, from mundane perspective. It looked like it's, crazy people behave like this. Not many people would like to associate with crazy people. Usually for this is the mental house where such crazy people are located, who think that they are Napoleon Bonaparte, or that they are, King Charles III, or, other, they think different things of themselves and behave in a strange way. And general people don't like to associate with such people. And that's why they're isolated. So sometimes the great souls are cheating such general public, just not to be disturbed from their transcendental bliss that they experience and their bhajan that they perform in. And because they don't want to associate with mundane people, because the association is contagious. One can pass over your desires, either being transcendental or material. That's why in Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse saying that for the transcendentalist, what is night for transcendentalists is a day for the mundane person, and vice versa. So those two categories of people are not compatible in one sense. So the only business that transcendentalists would have in material world or in material society is to give them Krishna consciousness, or to give them transcendental knowledge, to guide the society, to try to dissipate their ignorance of their transcendental self and the Supreme Personality of Godhead and their relationship, and other related subject matters. So that's what transcendentalists is trying to do out of compassion. otherwise, Bhajananandi and Goshtanandi. So the other type of translation would be isolating himself from such society and just performing his deep bhajan or deep prayers, meditation on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and so forth. And of course, experiencing this transcendental bliss, and sometimes in this form of, as Lord Shabadeva reached the highest transcendental bliss, which was increasing every second 10,000 or 1,000 fold every second. So we don't even understand how can a bliss increase 1,000 fold every second. So every second is 1,000 more, 1,000 more, 1,000. This is something incomprehensible. And such persons, they are experiencing those ecstatic symptoms like shivering, crying, and hair standing on end, and so forth. And yeah, and in order not to be disturbed during this state of their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by remembering their pastimes, glorious opulences, and associates, and chanting their holy name, and so, and other devotional activities like this, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, and so forth. So such persons, rather not to be disturbed, and sometimes they cheat in materialists by residing in such places, like Gorkishore Das Babaji has resided near the place where people are passing stool and like this. So in such places, people don't want to stay for long because it's not comfortable for their senses, especially karmis. Karmis are looking for varieties of sense enjoyments and sense pleasures. So that's what they are occupied with. So whatever is not pleasing to their senses, they will not be staying there for a long time. Jnanis may be of a different caliber, but this whole yoga ladder is described very nicely in Bhagavad Gita in many verses. But one verse I wanted to read today, actually, because it's related, is how rare devotees are. We have to understand, although we are in a society of practicing devotees, or sometimes we can say aspiring devotees. The reason I'm saying and using this word aspiring is because devotion is something very, very rare. Although we have to see in every single person we associate with in society of devotees, we have to perceive them as devotees because we don't know whether they are or not. But of course, because they're aspiring in that process, so they are certainly devotees. But at the same time, we have to understand how rare devotion is. So the famous verse in Bhagavad Gita 7.3 says, and I will just quote it, Manushyanam sahasreshu kaschidyatati siddhaye yatatamapi siddhanam kaschin mam veti tatvata. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. This is a very important verse to understand, because I read a little bit of the purport. Srila Prabhupada says here that there are various grades of man. That's what the yoga letters are trying to bring this topic. And out of many thousands, one may be sufficiently interested in transcendental realization to try to know what is the self, what is the body, and what is the absolute truth. Generally, mankind is simply engaged in the animal propensities, namely eating, sleeping, defending, and mating, and hardly anyone is interested in transcendental knowledge. I'll skip a few sentences. All right, it's a long purport, so, but I will try to focus our attention here that, so the general mass of people are just enjoying those four propensities, as animals do actually, and so there's not much really difference between humans and animals if they're just engaged in these propensities. Srila Prabhupada sometimes used an expression, refined animal. So we do these same things, but in a rather more sophisticated way. Not the way that Shukadeva Goswami says in his second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that there are caves that you can live in, you can sleep on your arm instead of a pillow, and on the ground there are rivers and some other sources of water, there are fruits and some kind of herbs that you can eat. So in other words, you can very live simply just to engage yourself in the self-realization. But humans don't do even that. So they created the sophisticated uh, opportunities for them to enjoy those propensities, namely eating, sleeping, sex life, and defending. Um, but in essence, those activities are not so much different from animals, from what animals do. So, and this is the general mass of people. It's a huge amount of population in material world, and especially in Kali Yuga, when we are trying to forget God, and it's a godless society, godless artificial civilization. We can say demoniac influence is very strong, and majority of people are in completely dark ignorance, and they don't want anything to do with God or with those self-realization. Then there's those rare category of people, very rare. In Sanskrit it says Sahasreshu, out of many thousands. So out of many thousands, not out of 1,000, out of many thousands, there is one who thought, okay, let me try to understand the reality uh, in a more deep way. And so they're trying, they're those seekers who are trying to, well, they can be in those four categories, either suffering or trying to find the riches, or curious, or those who are really seeking for absolute truth. So all of them will come to that category trying to understand, approach transcendental knowledge. But however, so those who are interested in transcendental knowledge, in understanding the self, the supreme, the super self, and the process of realization, by jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, and discrimination of the self from matter. However, Krishna can be known only by persons who are in Krishna consciousness. So here's another distinction. So there's a level when we can understand and know this body, either theoretically, by using our, nyaya, the logic, and studying the matter deeply, that dividing them into those 26 elements, and really, by our mental approach and intelligence, and we can understand theoretically. Then those who are deeply meditating may have some realization that this body is not the self. So this knowledge is available to those rare souls out of those thousands who are trying to approach this reality. But Krishna consciousness is something even more incomprehensive and secret knowledge. When Krishna says Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam, it's not just words, he's just saying, oh, this is very secret knowledge and king of knowledge. No, it is. It is exactly what it is. It is very secret, and it is very, royal. It's the highest. And Prabhupada, in the same purport later in this third verse of 7th chapter, he will say that it's I'll quote it. Non-devotees declare that the path of bhakti or devotional service is very easy, but they cannot practice it. So it's actually interesting. Somebody can say, oh, it's very easy, you just hang around in the streets of whatever city and just dancing and chanting Hare Krishna. How easy that is. But then you say, okay, if that's that easy, please join us. I said, no, 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 no. I'm doing this and that, and this is more like meditating or whatever they say. And materialists would say we are working hard, and everyone will have its excuse and reason. But it's actually difficult. Even look at the devotees, practicing devotees. How difficult it is to chant 16 rounds attentively, without looking at the phone, without, being disturbed by the mind, and really hearing the holy name. It's actually difficult. Even the process is easy, it's at the same time difficult. And to do it day after day, and increasing and trying to ignite that desire, try to follow, not try, but follow four regulative principles, and like this, and do it whole life, it's actually difficult. If it wouldn't be difficult, then we would see all over 5,000 Srila Prabhupada disciples, you know, being already spiritual masters, all of them, and you know, we'll see no fall downs, we'll see no problems, you know. But it's not like this, because there's different desires, there's this different motives, there's different uh, and a lot of difficulties on the path of bhakti in terms of contamination of this material Kali Yuga environment, not Sattva Yuga environment, Kali Yuga environment, polluted from ecological as well as from mental and so many perspectives. So it's actually becoming difficult. Of course, there's Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and there is mercy of pure devotees of the Lord, and we can you know, situate ourselves in the shelter of such mercy, because the mercy has been given out. So those who have desired to take shelter, well, seriously, sincerely, that's the word, sincerely desired to take shelter of Srila Prabhupada, that means take shelter of his instructions, that means taking seriously the process of bhakti and all the ingredients it includes, all of them, meaning the morning program, meaning the reading of the Shastra, meaning the you know, worshiping the deities. Worshiping means also not necessarily being on an altar, but doing some service for the deities and associating with the devotees, chanting the holy name without offenses and attentively like this. If they have sincerely means trying. You may be not perfect on all of this, but you're sincerely trying to add those elements, especially the 5 angas of devotional service, into your life, then you can see there's some success. You see those wonderful moon-like devotees, disciples of Srila Prabhupada that have uh, shown the success on the path of bhakti. And not just disciples of Srila Prabhupada, we can see the next generation doing the same. And we have those uh, examples that have successfully accomplished this human life form time that they were given in this human life. And this is inspiring because you see the process works. So you can and really need to see those examples near you that are successful and strive to follow in their footsteps. You know, associate with them, serve them, get their enthusiasm, understand their hints in bhakti, you know, those little secrets that they have, their vijnana that they have developed, how to practice bhakti. This is what we should be doing as aspiring devotees. Otherwise, there's no satisfaction, no peace. Ashanta, as Srila Prabhupada says in this purport to today's verse, that we cannot gain peace unless we have those various desires. And I can definitely be a testimony to that. You know, just practicing karma yoga really for all these, and even that maybe not always was karma yoga, whatever. But at least I was trying, and at some point maybe I was practicing karma yoga. So it means doing whatever I want and then offering this to Krishna. You know, that kind of approach while trying to follow the, you know, regulative principles plus 16 rounds and like this. But the desire, there were so many desires, and there still are so many desires. So you don't feel peace when this happens. Just, I know it's a very quick analysis. Just take a beat back, start chanting. What comes to your thought? If you're concerned about your day and start planning, you know, that means you are you know, your mind is disturbed. Or if you're concerned about specific aspect of your life, say how I'm going to pay the rent, right? So you all of a sudden concerned with money. That means you don't trust Krishna that, you know, he will take care of it if you take care of him properly. So right now it's not the time to plan your finances. It's time to chant japa. It's time to hear the holy name. Yet we are disturbed by this. So this is, you can already see this karma desires there. Or if there's other desire like, oh, when I'm going to get liberated, you know, when I'm going to get out of this material world, then you can see there's a jnana influence, and it's still not pure. It's not anyabilasha shunyam. So it's very easy actually to understand that you are not on the pure platform of bhakti yoga, because your mind will very quickly reveal itself in the process of attempting to chant attentively. And so there are many other desires. So I think Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes them in either Harinama Chintamani or some other book, very detailed, like those symptoms or thoughts that are coming up and what contamination is this. So that analysis is actually available to Bhakti practitioners. Right. So, and then of course we see in this conclusive verse of this chapter today that Rishabhadeva was, well, he was of course Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha. He was no different to the form of the Lord. And he's exhibiting that highest possible state in this material world, the love of Godhead stage. And it's interesting also that although Arjuna asks how such pure devotee acts, sits, talks, because we need some external symptoms to understand who to take shelter of, because there are many cheaters. We describe the yoga ladder, and those are at least not cheating, the karmis are just trying to do, just pursuing the sense enjoyment, and that's it. And, jnanis are trying to get liberated, yogis are trying to get those mystic siddhas. And then there are transcendentalists that are on the platform Brahman, right? And on the platform of Paramatma. And then finally the Bhakti Yogas, those who can understand Krishna by Krishna's grace. And not fully, but to a certain degree. Srila Prabhupada says that in the same 7.3, that only to a certain degree pure devotee understands, because it's impossible to understand the complete Purnam, the Lord, fully, because he's like unlimited. His glory is unlimited. His pastimes unlimited. So to a certain degree, it will be revealed to a pure devotee. But then there's other category, which is not really mentioned as category, but it is cheaters, of all kinds. Of course, there were different categories at the time when, say, Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur lived, and those were different Saki Bekis and Ahulas and those and the others, different cheaters who misinterpreted, and not only they themselves misinterpreted or deviated from the pure path of bhakti, but they were also pretending, there were sahajiyas and others who were pretending that they're on a certain level, and so they cheat in others so they could receive either worship or money or fame or prestige or whatever, or other sense enjoyments. So that is the whole category of people who are abusing the spiritual knowledge or spiritual tradition for their bad motive, or the bad desires that they have. So this is even more dangerous and even more drastic, and that's a reality in Kali Yuga, because many do that specifically. I think Srila Prabhupada was given once an example that there's a category of people who are abusing this Vedic knowledge, that they falsely renounce, and they go to the pilgrimage, and so the ladies who know that the sadhus, their potency of progeny is much higher because they practice celibacy and they want a good child, and so they were seducing those sadhus to get good child. And of course, those false sadhus were pretending to be sadhus in order to just have a sexual intercourse. So, there's like a whole, you have a desire to be cheated, and Krishna will arrange a situation when you will be cheated, because based on your desire, well, anyway, the cheaters cheating cheaters cheating those who wants to be cheated. And this is the whole material world, really. Just doesn't have to be in that specific example, but it's like all over us, everywhere. So it's very hard to maintain purity, but it's possible at the same time. So there's like a depressing note and an optimistic note at the same time, because we have that ability. Once His Holiness Devamrita Swami quoted a book called American Vedas, written by a mundane person who just analyzed all those yogis who came to United States in 60s, 70s, or even not 60s, in the whole century, I think. He analyzed all those different great persons. I'm not going to name those names because for us, of course, the only great person is Srila Prabhupada. And he was also in that book. So the thing was that all of those yogis or teachers, masters, whatever, gurus, they have at one point of their Christian mission in United States failed in one specific area, and that was one way or the other they found themselves in some relationship with some American girl. And the only exception was Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. But it's funny, the conclusion of the author was that because he was a rare exception to the rule, that means it's impossible. So he reverted it, Well, of course, because we're conditioned, it's nice to revert it like this. Well, it's only the rare. But it's not true, because many of the followers of Srila Prabhupada who have followed properly, they have succeeded. And it's not just one. And it's available, and it's possible. But of course, as I said before, sincerity and mercy are both needed. Sincerity includes determination. It includes, the one-pointed attention, like in Bhagavad Gita, this verse that says that your attention is one-pointed. The kanta is just, you see the goal. Like Arjuna, he didn't see the fish or whatever it was on that bird or whatever on the tree. He saw the aim. He saw the target. He didn't see the object. He see the target. That's how pointed he was. He needs to pierce with his arrow the target. He doesn't care what that form is. In other words, his attention is not even registering or contemplating on the object he needs to target. He knows he needs to hit the target, the point. So that's how sharp, and that's why Arjuna was the best archer. That's how fixed he was. And it didn't matter for him whether it's night or day. He practiced at night and a day. He barely slept sometimes when he had to perfect his abilities, his skill. So that's what we should be inspired in bhakti also by such examples, because it's easy to speak. We're not these bodies and the mind, but actually to practice it becomes more difficult. For example, I went to bed late last night, but I wanted to come to Mangalarti, and my alarm rang at before 4 o'clock. But because my body was so tired, I just slammed it and fell asleep again. And so I'm conditioned by this body. Am I satisfied with this? No, I'm not. I mean, I'm not satisfied that I didn't come to Mangalarti. I'm very dissatisfied with my sadhana. Does it mean that I should stop trying again? No, it doesn't mean that I should continue trying, and eventually to create a habit that this body will wake up despite of its tiredness or whatever. And actually you'll become more productive eventually, because you will accomplish more things in the morning, including your japa and like this. And so you will eventually go earlier to bed. So, and it takes time. For somebody it will take years, for somebody decades, for somebody whole life, maybe many lives. But this is something, we're not just doing it because I have to do it. We eventually, or at the end, we would be understanding we need to run to see the Lord. The desire, it will not be like, oh, I have to wake up for Mangalarti because my Guru Maharaj tells me. It will not be this thought. The thought, that's what's rare. We're talking about devotion. And devotion is, I'm running to Radha Damodar. I want to see them. I want to pay obeisances to them. I want to try and chant for their pleasure. That's what means no desires for devotee. No desires mean no my desires. My desire, they stop existing. There's only desire of the Lord. That's the only desire of the devotee. And is very rare, because what are we dreaming of when we're going to bed? We're not dreaming of Radha and Damodar and Krishna and pastimes of the Lord. We're not thinking about this because we used to think about something else. And that's a lamentation. So at some point we have to be so disgusted that we're thinking of something else that we should start crying that we're not thinking of Krishna. And then eventually, by Krishna's mercy, when we start crying, because that's the way, we have to cry our way through in bhakti. Pramanjana Trita Bhakti Vilochanena, eventually the tears of love should come on our eyes. So if there's no tears of eyes, we should cry that there's no tears of eyes. And if there's no tears in eyes, we should cry that we don't have a desire to cry. So that's how it is. So that's what we're supposed to be doing. And what's the time? Okay. Yeah, I'll probably stop here on crying, that I don't have the tears even to cry. And we can have opening some comments and questions that what is that? I will tell you one story while you're thinking. I remember Sripada Indra Prabhu was sharing his story. You know, back in Srila Prabhupada times, it was so simple, of course. It's actually very simple to practice devotional service when such pure devotee is nearby on a planet. It actually becomes much more simple because everyone is surcharged and, you know, they're trying to satisfy. So it's just everything is like, well, as I said, when Radha Maharaj came, we felt the same, you know, Krishna consciousness uplifted in us very, very quickly. So it was very easy to practice in his presence. When he was gone, when he was gone then to the other place, it gradually diminished, you know, gradually, day by day, to a certain level that where you're at. And so Sripada Indra Prabhu, he was saying that they were doing Harinams every day. And every day it was like sometimes even 8 hours. You know, it's like a long time spending and chanting the holy name. How many? You know, I've been doing Harinams 4 hours a day. When brahmacharis from Lithuania and Estonia came with Anandavarna Maharaj, we were doing every day for whatever period they stay. Usually it was about 10 days. 4 hours of Harinam for 10 days. And on the 10th day, I tell you, you know, it was a very specific state of consciousness and mind. When you actually do, it's not just kirtan with devotees, it's Harinam, that means Lord Chaitanya's mood, Nagar Sankirtan. So back in Prabhupada times, devotees were doing 8 hours. Vishnujan, you know, there were devotees doing 8 hours of Harinam a day. So he said at one point, and of course the body was so tired, you know, when you lie down, you fell flat and you switched off immediately. You know, there's no contemplation, there's no thinking, there's no insomnia problems. You know, people were just and immediately wake up the next day. So, but he said one day he lay down to bed and he heard the holy name. And not only he heard the holy name, the vision of transcendental realm opened up a little bit to him. So he saw, first of all, he saw the dust of the dust, just a cloud of dust. And then in that cloud of dust, while holy name was still playing in his mind, you can say, he saw a lot of young boys running. They all were very beautiful, with bangles and jewelries on there, and they were a jubilant mood. They were shouting something. Somebody was playing the little, you know, horns or bugles, whatever they call them, and you know they were laughing. And in that scene, he shares, as far as I remember, I may be now mistaken. I heard this story a long time ago, but I think he said also that he saw Krishna and Balaram, you know, within those. So it was a beautiful dream, but he actually he didn't perceive it as a dream. It was like he perceived it as a reality, which got him so inspired to go the next day on a Harinam again. So, and he said it happened only once. For all those months of this intense service of the holy name, one time holy name opened up to him like this. So he saw a glimpse of the transcendental reality. How inspiring it was, and it is. So that's the state we should eventually reach, that the holy name will open us the transcendental reality. But we have to understand what is our approach to the holy name. As Radhan Maharaj said, quoting Srila Prabhupada, how to build new Vrindavan community? Chant holy name, chant Mahamantra. But what it means is we have to really chant, not looking at the phone. I'm talking about myself. So yes, we have to take this process more seriously. Okay, Hare Krishna. Sorry, I'll stop here for sure. And there's still any comments. Itai-chan said, wonderful class. Thank you very much. Thank you for hearing.
Although I too would like to thank you for a wonderful class. And yeah, I'm inspired with so many thoughts. I don't know where to begin or what I can say in just 5 minutes, but I can tell you that 8 hours of Harinam back in the day, that was a short day.
You heard as devotees, 8 hours was a short day in Prabhupada time. Dr. Prabhu said.
Yeah, we went out on Harinam 7 days a week, and it was we went out right after breakfast. So if we got out the door at 9:30, we were late, and we would be severely chastised. And then we would stay out the entire day. We came back for the Artik, evening Artik, Sundar Artik. Later on, we stopped coming back for Artik because then there were books to distribute. Initially, there were no books to distribute. It was just Harinam. Later on, book distribution became very big. And then we stayed out late into the night. I can remember sometimes being out during marathons. We were out until, we would come back to the temple for Mangala Arti. Not in New York, there's activity all night long. You know, there are crowds of people in Times Square, and nightclubs are packed with people. There's always activity, and you can perform Harinam all night long, and you can distribute books pretty much all night long, and on special occasions, then especially. I can remember sometimes distributing books until 3 a.m. During a marathon, and just coming back to the temple for Mangala Arti. Those kinds of things were not uncommon at that time, and no one regarded these things as a chore. We didn't do them because we were forced to do them or something like that, but there was great enthusiasm to do these things. It was always a source of great delight. It was ecstatic, and it was when we simply loved to do it. It was wonderful. We didn't want to stop. It was when we stopped Harinam to come back for Artik, we were kind of torn. On the one hand, we really wanted to see their lordships, And the Arti Kirtan would be especially ecstatic, but the Harinam Kirtan was also ecstatic. And but we did it because we couldn't neglect their lordships, and that was the instruction. And let me tell you that Arti, after 9 hours of kirtan on the streets, is absolutely incredible, just extraordinarily ecstatic. To have a program like that every day, day after day, just endlessly chanting all day, every day, nothing but chanting. You know, everyone had a hoarse throat, and our hands from playing mridanga and kartals were they were a mess. I used to hold my hands together with masses of surgical tape, because all the flesh would just be fractured from constantly banging mridangas. We had to clean the mridangas off periodically because they would be covered with blood from constantly banging them, and it was but it was ecstatic. It was
Tarka
so
Prabhu,
ecstatic.
correct me if I'm wrong. I think I saw a picture where Vishnujan Prabhu was also putting coins on the tape on
Yes,
the thing.
yes, he wore gloves to protect his hands, and in order to increase the intensity of the impact on the mridanga head, he would put coins in the fingertips of the glove, um, to improve the quality of the sound and the volume of it. Um, but yeah, and his voice was always raspy and hoarse because he would chant nonstop all day long, every single day, just nonstop chanting the entire day. Incredibly ecstatic program. And as you say, when we laid down to take rest, it was instantaneous. As soon as you hit the floor, immediately you would pass out. And then all night you would simply dream of kirtan and Krishna's pastimes. It was very, very wonderful, and an extraordinarily wonderful time. We've gone through so many changes over the years, and you know, those of us who participated in those days, we're old and feeble-bodied now, and we can no longer do those things as we once did. But my gosh, what a wonderful time! And it was everyone. It didn't matter, men, women, and even we had devotees who. I had one god brother who had only one leg, but he would get out on Sankirtan every day along with the rest of us and participate in the same way. He danced as best he could. We had some devotees that were unable to walk at all. They were in wheelchairs, and they also participated very enthusiastically. And in many cases, they outperformed those of us who were able-bodied. You know, and these things just, you know, the experiences cemented us to Krishna consciousness. It was so wonderful, so ecstatic. And, you know, the kirtans were uproarious, very energetic, very wild and crazy. And Srila Prabhupada liked it that way. He encouraged that kind of a thing. The devotees would dance wildly with complete abandon, just bouncing off the ceiling. And Srila Prabhupada would be disappointed if we were not doing that. He very much appreciated our wild, ecstatic kirtans.
Thank you, Tarka Prabhu. I have to move on to Guru Puja right now.
Yes. Thank
And
you again, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
what you were saying reminded me about Srila Prabhupada words, work now, samadhi later. So although you were in samadhi while working for Krishna in all these beautiful, services, especially Harinam and others, now it's like smaranam time. It's also samadhi. It's a smaranam time for you to absorb it, because you have so many samskars, spiritual samskars to relish one after the other. So I'm sure that when you go into bed, unlike me, you are remembering all of those wonderful things. And yeah, not your mind is not disturbed. You're really relishing either Srila Prabhupada and devotees. And so yes, it's a spiritual experiences for you. So, and inabilities that are coming with old age, although seems to be an obstacle, some external obstacle, but internal. Your consciousness is so absorbed, and your desires even getting stronger for the Lord and for the service. I know that for sure, and you can say whatever you like, Prabhu, but I know, I I I certainly know. So thank you again very much, Prabhu, and thank you, Charaka Prabhu, for always contributing so nicely to those classes and enlighten us all. Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Shri Guru Charanam Padma Kevalam Yes, under the under the Baba Batu Krishna Krishna Asha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Srimate Bhakti Dasma Vinaya Krishna Srimate Bhakti Dasma Namaste Saraswati Saraswati Navani Chaitanya Ramaya Priya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Nagari ki Gita, Damodar ki Jai, Shakadeva ki Jai, Taigura Sundar ki Jai, Gangamai ki Jai, Yamunamai ki Jai, Bhakti ki Jai, Srimad Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Hare Rama Sankirtan ki Jai, Nitaya Guru Premanand ki Jai, Samahita Kavinda ki Jai, all glories and Samad all glories and Samad Devotee, so praise the goodness of the Sri Shri Guru Ram. The Lord is sweet of our spirit of our heart, the Lord word and the Lord stuff. About our land, Lord, faith, and Lord, the race might go across the ocean, material suffering, and attain the mercy of Krishna. Only wish that my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to the lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. It opens my dark eyes and fills my heart trance and alone. My Lord Prabhupada. Ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures soon instructed. Our spiritual master, also mercy, the planet poor. All the master of all the roots. Raise the merciful unto us. Give us the shade of the loving hands. Free worlds we take shelter. Die. Hare Krishna devotees, thank you.
Haribol, thank you.